Hello, everybody, and welcome back to That Pretentious Book Club.
Yay!
That over there is your host. That is your host, Gino. No last name. She's from Mystery Origin, and I'm Ash O'Rourke, but you can call me Wheezy, which it ain't easy to be. And my origin's not a mystery. I'm from Texas, and it's way too hot here to be wearing a long sleeve, and it is October 9th. So,
I have decided that because you say it ain't easy being wheezy and Kendall has howdy,
hi, howdy.
that mine's gonna start with a different hello in a different language each time, and so I completely run out of languages. I'm just gonna learn
Oh,
it
I
in the most
love
random language.
it. Oh, this
So
is so good.
anyway, konnichiwa, everyone.
Oh, there we go. That's nice. All right. So yours is so classy.
Oh no, it'll definitely not be classy next time. Every time it's gonna get weirder and weirder.
Perfect. Yes, I love it. Well, if you're new here, God bless and keep you. If you're returning, God bless, keep you, and may his face shine upon you. I am so glad that you guys are back. Can I just say that you guys have been like super awesome, and we have put out a few episodes in the last few months after disappearing into the ether, and everyone has been amazing. And I don't know what's been going on with y'all, but like the last couple of weeks, even though there's been nothing new coming out, y'all been like happy to see us. There have been all kinds of downloads. You guys are wonderful. And to thank you for that. And also because we're just so funny, I can't help but put the things that we say on more items for you to buy. I actually created some new merch. So if you go to storysirenstudio.com, that's our production company. You can also go to thatpretentiousbookclub.com. It'll take you to the same place. And there's some new merch there. There are some pins featuring such beautiful statements as Young Fry of Treachery, which is a reference to our Macbeth episode. Um, Fierce Little Acorn, of course, is featured from a different Shakespeare episode. And I'm forgetting like another really funny one, but there's funny stuff on there. And also, Always Falling for the villain merch is available once again per tradition because it's fall, finally. Um, and if you guys don't want to hear nonsense, you've come to the wrong podcast. But if you just want to hear nonsense related to today's book, then the skip notes will be in the show notes below. You're not as cool as everyone else, but it's okay. We can't always all be the coolest. Just kidding. Glad you're here. And Gino, how is your last week, month, random duration of time? How has it
Yeah,
been?
I know. I have so much to say. I don't even know where to begin, but I'm going to start because like it's top of my mind because you're just talking about the new merch with the Shakespeare quotes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually two things that come off of that. I have been running lately. I don't like to run, but I've been doing it.
Oh
Go me.
God. My
Um,
literal first thought was, what's chasing you? Which is not even an original joke, but it was the first thought in my mind. So,
I've been using the app that we use
yep.
and it has the running one there, so I have to do it. And for a while it was like as long as I get out there and do it, even though my running pace is nothing, like it's okay. Like if I was having a really bad day, I was like, if you go out there and you run faster than 18 minutes a mile, then you did it. Like even if it's 17.5 or whatever.
Yeah.
So some days I'll go out there and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling good, and I'll kind of push myself. And other days I'll go out there and be like, I'm just going out there today. And a lot of those, I'm just going out there today, instead of listening to music, I'll listen to podcasts or this podcast. And I hadn't listened to the Macbeth episode yet, so I put it on the other day when I went for my run, and I was listening to Macbeth, and I was like, because I was not feeling this run. And I got done. I had my best run time yet from
What?
listening to a podcast while running to listening to this podcast. So all I'm saying
Wow.
is like we promote being
Health
your
and
best and
wellness.
health and wellness.
Yeah.
Um, because I couldn't
Also,
believe
if you
that.
need something to run from, our voices are hot on your trail. Apparently, we're
I was like, I gotta get away from this. They won't leave
like,
me alone.
nobody can run fast enough to escape the book club.
And also with that, with Macbeth, one of the things y'all mentioned was that, well, I mean, it's in the play, but you can't kill Macbeth unless you're a C-section, and
Hmm.
over here I could kill Macbeth. So just putting that out there.
Amazing. So basically, you're better than everybody else.
That's what I was trying to say, but you said it for me, so that
Yeah.
works.
You and everybody who doesn't use the skip notes.
Um, Other things. I asked my stepdaughter if she had read Howl's Moving Castle because she reads every book that exists. And also, I've run here and I was going to look this up before I came, but I forgot to. So now I'm going to say it wrong. But Studio Ghibli or Ghibli, I don't know how it's pronounced. I
I
think
always
I
say
think
Ghibli.
there's like a giant argument over which way it's pronounced.
I'm a
But
fan of the hard G. It's GIF and it's Ghibli. Come at me,
um
world.
so they loved like they she loves the movies and everything. So I assumed she'd read it and she was like, "No, I actually haven't." And I was like, "Oh, okay, 'cause I'm reading it for this podcast that I'm going to be on." So she's like, "Oh, what's the podcast? Like I might listen to it and all this." So she might be listening now. And if she is, one, happy
Hi.
birthday because it was yesterday. So happy
Oh
birthday.
my God, happy birthday.
And two, now I'm scared if she's listening, but
Does this mean what do I need to not say?
no, everything you that happens on here, she's very mature enough to handle.
Okay. Excellent. All
So,
right. Thinking of all the bad words I know. Just
yeah.
kidding. All right,
Um,
sweet.
yeah, I had an absolutely horrible day and I've been having a horrible time of it. And the second I like logged on and saw your beautiful face and heard your wonderful voice, I was like, oh, I don't even need to talk about all that drama anymore. I feel better.
Oh,
So,
I'm so glad. I do get that. I was feeling like rushed and like anxious, and I was like, ah, there's too much to do. And then, oh, I saw your boobs first because your camera was flipped upside down and very low. And I was like, Gino's boobs. Ah, so comforting.
they bring everybody up. They just lift up the world.
This is that where maybe this is what inspired the phrase bosom buddies, which my husband hates so much. I don't know if we've covered this on here, but for some reason, like some things just make Javi irrationally upset. And it's always something that you can't predict, but easily the most like surprising and impossible to follow for me that just like enrages him is the word bosom. And I just like can't follow it at all. I don't know where it came from. But I was also glad
Interesting.
to see you and your bosom today, my bosom
Thank you.
buddy.
I'm wearing a special shirt. I don't know if I should get to it now or once we get into the book, but
I want to
let's see.
see.
Oh,
Oh, oh, now I can see the whole thing. Oh, okay. For those who are not watching the video on YouTube, this is on YouTube, by the way. It is Calcifer with the frying pan and bacon, and he says, "May all your bacon burn," which is excellent. Oh, that's so good. I'm gonna start saying that. That's so good.
just
Did
like
you already have that shirt like prior
y-
to this?
yeah, it's Phil's shirt.
Oh,
So
gosh. The main point of having a man is to take their stuff.
he also just since I started that, but like they've never read the book, but they love the movie so much. His car is named Calcifer. Like that's why he named his car.
What?
So
Oh,
he
I
actually has a
really,
license plate that says Calcifer.
what? Oh, that's amazing. I really want to watch the movie again. I'm gonna, if I'd had time, I would have watched it again. But there were things that I was like, I remember that being different. And then when I was looking up memes about this, and yes, you guys, there's gonna be memes to come. I was like, yeah, there's definitely some differences in there. Both delightful to my memory, but we will get into it. Is there anything else about your life that you want to share?
Not currently. So
How are your chickens? I was also re-listening to our own voices because I'm that narcissistic, and I was like, oh, Gino. Like she's so funny.
I actually felt like there was an update with the chickens and ducks, but I cannot remember it. So maybe it'll come to me later. I feel like yesterday, um, I thought something that I was like, oh, I should definitely talk about this, but I don't know what it is. I have a rooster again.
Oh,
Maybe that was it. I don't know. He
Mm.
crowed for the
My
first time this
condolences.
week. And I'm not sure that he's gonna live much longer. Oh, maybe this was it. I'm just gonna keep telling stories forever. No,
Perfect. That's what this whole thing is.
so I grew up here, which is country like where I am. I grew up on a farm
Mysterious origin.
essentially. I grew up with like a farm essentially, lots of land and just like child playing in the dirt outside all the time sort of thing.
Mhm.
Well, that's relevant because it is. Um, the other night we're sleeping and the window's open because it's very cool here and we like sleeping in the coolerness. That's a word. And uh Phil woke up and he heard like noises outside. And then I woke up after him and I was like, "Is that coming from outside?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's the ducks." So the ducks are just making a racket. And you could also hear like yipping noises.
Oh no.
And we recently have been hearing coyotes, which we used to have tons of. We haven't had them for a while. We think there's a pack now.
Yeah.
So I bolt out of bed, like grab the first amount of clothing I can find to put on, um, and run out the door. And Phil's like kind of taking longer behind me, but honestly, Phil's just a slower human than I am, so I didn't think
Yeah.
of it, anything of it.
It's a man thing. Yeah.
I run outside, turn on the light, run outside, like look around. There's nothing there. I'm assuming there was something there and I scared it away, which was my intent. I assumed that it well, I was hoping it hadn't got in yet to the coop the way our ducks are set up. They're separate than the chickens, and theirs is a little more outside accessible. And then I turn around and Phil is standing there with nothing but these like whitewashed jeans on. Um, his hair like he's got kind of a mullet going on right now and just
Oh my
like
God.
bedhead mullet and his shotgun in hand.
Oh
The
my
most
gosh.
like I was like, "What are you doing?"
Redneck Romeo. Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
I just started laughing. I couldn't stop laughing. And like if it was a coyote, they're gonna run when we get out there. Like
Yeah.
they're not like you don't need shotgun. It was the fun, like 3 in the morning, just like bare chest, whitewashed jeans, shotgun in hand.
The with the
Like,
mullet, it, like, really
yeah,
makes it. I have not even met Phil in person, and I can, like, fully picture this, and it is, like, straight out of, like, a TV show.
it was.
I
It
would be like, "Am
was.
I actually awake right now? Are we still asleep?"
I was dying. Uh,
Oh my god, that is so funny. Well, if the coyote wasn't scared away before, it certainly was
it would
then.
be. Yeah.
Oh my god. That tops literally any story I could possibly.
But what's been going on with you? My ducks are all safe. What's going on with
Oh,
you?
well, that's good. My chickens are all alive, whatever. We took Riley on his first road trip, which was awesome. We went up to Nebraska to see my friend Lauren. What up, Lauren? And her three precious kiddos, and she has another on the way. And Riley was just like, I think it was the best weekend of his life. Not the traveling part, because to be fair, I think he did really good for he was 11-month old at the time. And he probably like total screaming time in the car each day because we had 6 hours one day and 6 hours the next day was probably only like an hour total of screaming time, which I don't think is that horrible for an 11-month-old stuck in the car for 6 hours. We did try and stop like every 3 hours to like let him get out and toddle around and play and stuff. And by toddle, I do fully mean like, yes, we're helping him walk. He is not walking yet. Everyone get off my back. He's too cute. He's too long. Watching him wobble from his knees like a little Elvis with the pelvis is like the funniest thing.
An
He
Elvis with the pelvis.
he is just so long. And even the doctor was like, yeah, I'm not shocked that he's having trouble balancing. Um, but anyways, he had an amazing weekend. We went to this super cool pumpkin patch that's like easily the size of like a theme park, and we couldn't get through the whole thing. Um, and then we went to the Omaha Zoo, which if anyone ever has the chance, if someone's like, Nebraska, why are you going to Nebraska? There's nothing to do there. Which literally every single person that we ran into on our trip up there, even like the parking lot attendant was like, Nebraska. if you're going there for a good time, you might as well just turn around. Which is a direct quote, actually. Like every single person we met was like, Nebraska, go for the Omaha Zoo. Okay. I was going for my darling Lauren and her family, and that was well worth it for me. But Nebraska is, first of all, it's beautiful. And sure, like there's not like as many like big name like things to do as other places, but it's really peaceful. There's basically no traffic because there's nobody there. The Omaha Zoo is, I think it's like the number one zoo in the nation, or like rated like really high up there. Like it's a really, really cool zoo. Um, and I got to see my stingrays. And I learned that my child's favorite animal thus far is jellyfish, probably. Maybe
Oh,
a tie between penguins and jellyfish, which surprised me.
those are
And
not bad
they're not
to
bad.
have.
They're definitely not. Especially because at least the penguins, he's warming up to birds, but I don't think he realized they were birds because he saw them swimming. He is so apathetic about birds. He just turned 1, and at his first birthday, I did that thing where you like ask people a bunch of questions about your kid and make them feel bad for like forgetting like what weight he was when he was born. 8 pounds, 6 ounces, by the way. And and I was like, what's his favorite animal? And everyone was like, dog, cat. And I was like, you'd think so. You'd be wrong. It's jellyfish. And then they were like, how would you know? And I was like, we were at the zoo. Then I asked, like, what do you think his least favorite animal is? Dog, a cat. No, it's stingrays, my favorite. He hated the stingrays. He would go back from the glass, like arms and legs, like a little like gingerbread man. Was just like every time a stingray went by. I don't know why he didn't like the stingrays.
So
Um,
they have a touch thing there
they
where you
do
can
also
touch
have a
them.
touch pool. Yeah, we learned that he
Okay.
didn't like them when it was like some big stingrays in one of the like indoor, like one of the big giant tanks, and he saw them like swim up the glass basically, and he was like, oh,
What is
absolutely
that?
not. And then when we went to the touch tank, I spent a very long time there, and there was a little 4-day-old stingray. They were all like, everyone be careful, do not try to touch her, she was a surprise baby, we she just came out of nowhere, she's 4 days
Oh,
old. And she was so cute. Ugh, I loved her. Anyways, I didn't even name her. It's okay. I'm sure that they named her. It's their stingray. I'm sure that they named their baby.
No, it's yours. It is
It's
definitely
mine.
Ash's stingray.
Yeah,
You should
probably.
name it now, or by the end, and by the next podcast, we have to come up
I'm
with a
naming
name
it
for it.
Sophie. Its name is
Okay.
Sophie. Um,
Perfect.
yeah. And then for what I thought was like for me the most entertaining question of the game was what animal does Riley feel most apathetic about? And I don't know why I thought that was going to be so funny because everyone was like, what? Like, doesn't really have an answer. I was like, it's birds. In case anyone was wondering what animal he just doesn't care about at all, is birds, including the chickens. You're like, look, chickens. And he's like, no, like he's not
I'd
afraid. He's not
rather see a worm,
interested.
Mom.
Like he truly would. Um, So that was entertaining. And I don't know how I got there. Oh, Omaha Zoo. It's good. You can
Oh
figure out
yeah.
which animals your child is loves, hates, or is completely apathetic about if you don't already know. Um, and Riley can now say the word but, which I learned because I said to our cats, Yennefer, don't let Flora bully you. Go kick her butt. And then I heard but from behind me, and I was like, oh no.
He said his first word. No,
No, it was his third.
I know.
We said mama dada butt. And I thought it was a fluke, and so I wasn't really counting it as a word in his like very limited vocabulary. I was like, it's a fluke, whatever. He just heard a sound and he likes B sounds, so like ba ba da ba ba. So he just said it. And then I was in the car with my friend Amy, and Riley was in the back in his car seat, and I didn't know he was even awake at this point. And I was telling her the story of how he said butt. And then in real time from his little car seat, I hear butt. And I was like, dude. So I feel, and
I
then he was
bet
like,
Javi's proud.
but,
I bet Javi is proud.
I'm sure he's extremely proud. But so yeah, now Riley can say, mama, dada, and but. And also he can say go. That one's new. He'll point and say go, like a little king. Um, and also, and this is probably my last, like, because I'll try not to monopolize my update with my child, even though it's all that I want to do. But, but,
Oh, Lord.
oh my God, I'm a child. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that they put monster juice in my child's vaccines. And this is not like an anti-vaxxer statement at all. He got his chickenpox vaccine and now he's acting like a monster. Like I don't know what's going on. Like I don't know if it's because he just turned one or what, but he threw his first tantrum ever. He threw himself on the ground screaming because I wouldn't let him throw my sunglasses at the window. And like I caught his head so it didn't hit the floor. And then I was like, all right, you do you. If you
Have
gotta
fun with it.
have
I
fun.
didn't know when you said monster juice, I didn't know if you meant like he was throwing tantrums now or if he was like walking around like, "Rah." Like
Actually, both. He has started growling like a lot. And I was like, it's not like any of our animals growl, so I don't know where it came from, but he'll go, "Rah, rah, rah." And you're like, what is going on? Yeah. Anyways, so he's a hoot. The kids will keep you on your toes. Um, they're a little scary sometimes. Any other life updates that are entertaining or pertinent? Well, what is that? It's a ghost. It's a cat. It's a cat.
It's a cat's ghost.
Yeah. Oh, and it's not even Flora being bad for once. Wow. Yennefer. Uh, Making a note to cut out me saying except for you people on YouTube because I'm not going to go to that much effort. Sorry, I don't have a good video editing software because I'm cheap. I don't think there's anything else. I feel like we're trying to do that like keeping each other accountable thing, which is fun.
Oh
Um,
yeah, which is fun and we're really bad at, and I think we need a
yeah,
better system, but I don't know
yeah,
what.
for real, right?
And also,
I
I was like, "Ugh, I want to change the thing that you're keeping me accountable for, but the whole point of it was to focus on one thing and not change things.
I
So
know,
I was
I
gonna text you and
know.
be like, can I get like one change? And then like if I change it now, I can't change it again.
Ooh,
It's
that's
like,
smart. I want to implement that because I've been also thinking about changing mine. But we only get one change if we do. And I've been thinking about it, but I don't know if I want to. Because mine is to write at least 200 words a day. A piddly little 200 words a day, which I'm sure is less than I end up texting to the various people who text me whom I have to reply to. And I can't seem to do it. So
I was gonna send you something that said like 200 words. You'd probably send text longer than that
I
to
definitely
encourage you.
send text longer than 200
Well,
words.
I was yeah, mine is to post on social media, no matter what it is, random stuff. And I don't remember what it was. If it was, I do think it was job related. I was looking at jobs and travel and stuff. And I was like, man, I really should have just picked learning a language because that's already one of mine, like that I
Mhm.
want to do, but I don't spend time on it right now. Because the whole point of this is to focus on one goal because we have 32 goals. So if we focus on one, we can accomplish it and move to the next.
Yeah.
But I was like, maybe I should just switch to like becoming fluent in Italian and then I can get like a tour guide job there or
See,
something.
my
So
brain's
I don't
like, oh my God, wait, me too. Wait, I'll change mine too.
know. We're
Uh,
not good at this. Okay, I'm gonna move us on because I have my signature book drink here,
yes, yes,
and I haven't drank it yet, and I want to taste it and I want to drink it. So
please
it
do.
look, it disappears in the
Oh, magical.
Ooh, you can only see it in front of my face.
It's in a
But
beautiful glass too.
yeah, so I'm gonna talk about that, and then I'm gonna drink that and tell y'all how it tastes.
Heck
And
yeah.
you
And I
at
will
home,
post the recipe again for anyone who wants to also try it.
yeah, you at home can make it yourself and enjoy while you listen. So
Yeah.
stop right now, go make it. Well, yeah, stop right after I tell you what it is, then go make
Yes.
it, and
Yes.
then listen to the rest pod. So this is a shot of vodka, 2 shots of elderberry liqueur, in a smoked glass, which cherry wood. I attempted that. We'll see how it is. I don't have like a smoking gun or anything that I use for, so I just turned the glass upside down and smoked it underneath. And
Yeah.
then topped off with Prosecco.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, and there are reasons for that because I'll mention them later as we get to them in the book. I'll explain to you why I chose things in the drink. Well, firstly, the smoking is because of calcifer, because it's like fire is a
Yeah,
big part of it.
so
And
genius.
then I thought of elderflower because Sophie is the eldest and mentions it a bajillion times in the
So
book.
many times. And also the flower shop.
Yes. So, all right. And uh Ash has her own special drink there, so
Oh, here, I'll tell you guys about
cheers.
my drink, but it's not exciting. It's grenadine for fire and it's strawberry sparkling water because that's what I had. And it's rose water and floral gin for flowers.
This smells
That was
so
good.
good. Like I could smell it far away from me. I was like,
Mine also smells good, but yours sounds so much better.
that has like, oh, I guess it is smoked. I was like, it has like a burn to it.
Oh my God, where did that come
Not,
from?
not, not in a bad way. I don't know. You know, I made our four dead queens drink the other day. I was like, I'm gonna
Really?
have that again. Yeah.
This looks a lot
Um,
like it. I'll be honest. I will also say, like,
I
mine is very good. It turned out shock. Oh, it also has lime juice. I forgot for the green slime. But so I did my best to be on theme, but I desperately, desperately wanted to make your drink. So that's I will be posting Gino's recipe. If you want mine, you can message me. I'll send it to you. And it's fine, it's good, but hers is way better and also more magical because Prosecco and it bubbles, which to me just feels like a magical drink.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Like it's okay. I don't know if I would make it again,
Interesting.
but you should try it anyway, everybody. Give
Yeah.
us your opinions on it.
Mm, so jealous. I'm going to definitely. I need more. The second that I get elderflower liqueur and prosecco, which I usually do have at least one of those on hand, so I thought I'd just have to pick up the other one. Disappointed to find out that that was not true. Um, Sweet. Okay. Well, if you have not already, pause and go make your drink. Hopefully, it is one of these two drinks, preferably the beautiful one
Do
that
not
Gino
drink
made.
anything but these two drinks right now.
It's all you're allowed to drink. Are you dying of thirst?
Is
Sorry,
that
you're gonna have to
water? Put it
suffer.
down.
Water. Who brings water to TPBC? I don't think so. You will not make it through the end of this episode if you're not drinking. Just kidding, kind
Unless you're
of.
running.
Yeah,
Unless you're running, then you'll make
it's
it.
true. Run faster.
Just at every random moment throughout the pod, we'll be like,
Are you
run,
running
run, run.
faster?
Quit
We're
slowing
gonna
down.
get you. Oh God. Okay. So you said that you did the amazing work of actually looking into the author for
Yeah,
this
I did
book.
because I was really curious and it was not at all what I thought it was. Because when I said something to Phil about it too, he was like, I'm sure the book came after the movie. And I was like, I actually have no idea. Um, and the answer to that question is
I
no, the
know, I'm
book
like
came
in
first.
suspense. The book came first. Okay.
The book came first. So the
Yeah.
book was written by Diana Wynne, Wynne, in 1986, and the movie came out in 2004. So, and it's actually the first in a series, the book. So,
What?
yeah, yeah.
Oh
There's
wait,
at least two more.
I need to credit. We're reading this because a I guess Buzzsprout, which is what our podcast is hosted through, they're doing this new thing where people can like submit fan mail, which is really cool. You guys are also always welcome to just like message us on social media. But it was really cool. We got a message from someone and I will find your name and we will credit you, but you know who you are and you're right, you are why we're reading this. So thank you for the
Yes,
recommendation. Spoiler, I loved it. Okay,
absolutely.
continue.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. Um, so yes, Diana Wynne, it's the first in a series, and about her, the author, she was born August 6th, 1934.
It's my
So you know
sister's birthday. The first part, not the last part.
I was like, wow, your sister looks good for being almost 100.
Right? The Italian
Um,
genes.
well then do you know what her star sign is?
I do. She's a Leo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
so then I know nothing about Leos except for that your sister is one, and I know your sister. So I'll base everything Leo off of her from now on.
That's exactly what I do as well. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? I don't know how it
I'm pretty
works.
sure. Um, and she died, not your sister, Diana, in
I was
2011.
like, she just called me a second ago, I swear.
No, she died in 2011. Sorry no one's broke it to you, but until now. Anyways, she's written quite a few books for children and young adult books. They're mostly all fantasy series or standalone fantasies. And from everything I saw, everyone's like, these are awesome. And actually, Howl's Moving Castle is the least of them, kind of. Everyone's like, it gets so much credit because of the movie, but these other ones are way better. And if they're way better, then wow, because I liked this
That's, yeah,
book.
same. Oh my goodness, way better.
Um, she actually attended lectures by both Tolkien and C.S. Lewis.
It shows. Totally
She
shows.
is also was also used as an inspiration and an influence for many other famous authors. So J.K. Rowling, Neil Gaiman, Terry Pratchett, Philip Pullman all took from her a bit or influenced by her.
Ugh,
I found a really cool quote by her because, as I said, she was born in 1934, and if you know anything of world events around that time, it was a little bit chaotic with a war just beginning.
right?
And so I saw this really cool quote from her that she said, I think I write the kind of books I do because the world suddenly went mad when I was 5 years old. And I was like, that's pretty awesome. Like, not that the
Yeah.
world went mad, but like that she took that from that and created something so
Something
amazing.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God, she's inspirational as hell.
And it's interesting because the movie has a lot of those war influences in it, whereas the book
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah. Because I
Like,
think
I was,
supposedly he keeps the castle moving in the movie to avoid the draft, I think.
um,
This is what I gathered from the memes because I didn't remember the
yeah,
movie that well.
I don't think he specifically says that, but he's definitely like very involved with the war in the movie.
Gotcha.
And the war is not even well, it might have been like once mentioned in the books that like the king was thinking of going to war, but that was it. Like it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with like the
It
war in
has more to
Wales and
do with
everything.
tax evasion. Can we just say, and this is, I do pay my taxes, so this is not a statement like everyone, yeah, pay your taxes. But I love that. Hal has a
To move
certain
a house
level.
so that you can not pay
I,
taxes.
yeah, I love it. Honestly, he was like, anarchy, absolutely no government's got no hold on me. And I was like, yeah, Hal.
I
Anyways,
love Book Howl so much more than Movie Howl. He's got so much more like insanity to him, so much more
oh
chaos.
my
It's
gosh,
like
so
it's like
much more.
Movie Howl's very much a I don't know. I'll come back to that, but I like Book Howl so much better.
Oh God, I love
Um,
that.
but yeah, those were the quick things I have about the author because I was just reading, I was like, she sounds awesome.
Yeah, seriously. Okay. Um, Young Fry of Treachery, Anna or Anna. I don't know how you say your name, but you are the one who recommended this. So thank you, Anna
Thank
or
you.
Anna, you young fry of treachery. And I say that because that's how she signed off the letter. She signed it young fry of treachery, Anna slash Anna. So thank you very much. This was an absolute delight. And boy, did I need it too. I enjoyed it so much. I was like,
Yes.
oh, I cannot, because the other book, spoiler, not spoiler, but the next book we're doing on the pod, I'm reading The Outsiders with Spoons, which is
Oh,
good, but it's a lot different than this one.
I think it's, I was thinking about this. It's pretty funny because she likes I mean, it's been discussed on here before. She likes classics and
Yeah,
like
she
the more
likes
serious
suffering. You
things.
can
Yeah.
just say it. She likes pain.
And You're like, hey, what do you want to read? And I'm like, what's like the fluffiest fantasy we can find?
I love it
And so
so much.
I get to read all that and I don't have to read
The
the
classics.
classics.
It is good.
It's
I
working
consider
out really
it,
well for me and then you're just in the middle.
it's fine. I consider it, such as my life as the ultimate middle child. I consider it like my ongoing education, reading the classics. And also it's it's interesting to hear like how far off I am. Like when I read classics and then Kendall explains what they actually mean to me or what the book's actually about. I'm like, no way. Never would have known. Did we read the same book? So it's enjoyable. I definitely feel like I'm like the comedic relief in those episodes, which is only to say like I'm the idiot who has no idea what's going on because Kendall is also extremely funny. So maybe she actually doesn't need me at all. No, I totally, no one tell her that. No, she totally needs me. Kendall, you totally need me.
Absolutely. The podcast is nothing without you.
That's right. And don't forget it, everybody. Um, well, I guess is there, oh, first impressions, I guess, and then we can get into the summary.
Yes. Okay, so my first impressions were you said, do you want to read this? And I was like, yeah, I guess, because I had seen half the movie and fell asleep, not because the movie was bad, but because I was very tired. And this was like 2 years ago. And I remember decently liking it, but also not being like absolutely enthralled in it. So I wasn't sure how the book was going to go comparatively.
Yeah.
And uh, I did not get a physical copy of the book. I had my Kindle and everything, so I didn't see a cover. So that was my first impressions.
My first impressions of the book was, didn't I watch that movie? And I immediately, as soon as we got that message from you, Anna, I'm so sorry that I am repeatedly saying your name wrong. I could literally just choose one and at least I'd only be wrong like
Let's
50%
go
of
with
the time.
Anna. Let's go with
Anna.
Anna.
I just want to be wrong 100% of the time. Um, as soon as I got your message, I was like, this feels like a really strong recommendation from a really solid source. And I immediately opened my little Thrift Books app. Thrift Books has an app, everybody, in case you didn't know. And I ordered a used version of The Howl's Moving Castle. And my first impressions of the cover was that looks a lot like the movie cover because I got the book that had the picture of the movie cover for the cover. So that would be why. Um, I literally had nothing else to think. I was like, I remember there being like a dramatic dude in this, and like a girl gets turned into an old lady. And that is all that I remembered. So I guess that's sort of my first impressions of the book. I went in there like fully trusting though that it was going to be something good because listener recommendations it has never ever failed once. So I was like, it's going to be good. I have no idea. And it was not like in other circumstances, I wouldn't have picked it up. First of all, because I had a movie cover on the front of a book and I hate that. And then second of all, because I'd have been like, I already saw the movie, which is like the worst thing you could say to a reader about a book adaptation. I don't need to read it. I already saw the movie. But that had previously kind of been my thought process. So I guess that's all of my like background going into this. And now just to be clear, I've not seen the movie in a long time. So I want to watch it again after this, but like my comparisons personally are like long distant anecdotes and also things that I gathered from meme hunting for you guys. So
I did just watch the movie after I finished the book, so that's
that's
fresh.
perfect. So you can help like clarify if what I gathered from the memes is correct. Um, okay. Well, with that, we can get into the summary.
The
Uh,
book.
so we start out, we've got Sophie Hatter. She is what is she? Is she the youngest again? The middle child? No, no,
Oh my
no.
gosh.
She is the eldest. How do we know she's the eldest? Because she tells us 100 million times that she's the
And she
eldest.
will amount to nothing because of it.
She should not seek her
Because
fortune. She should
because
not
she's the
seek her
eldest,
fortune.
nothing will.
Nothing
And
good's
I
gonna
was
happen.
like, I was as the eldest. I was like, oh, is that why my life is a disaster?
I was literally like, is this something I don't
I,
understand? Because, like, in my world, and maybe it's because of the heavy Italian heritage we grew up with, I'm like, isn't the oldest, especially if a boy, when I know that doesn't apply here, but isn't the oldest like the most important until the baby
Yeah.
comes along? Like, pretty sure.
Yes.
But for some reason, so I'm like, is this just, I'm just curious. Like, I wish I could ask Diana, like, is your experience, or is this like how you feel like it was culturally and things have just shifted since
I wonder
then?
if she had oh, I didn't put her last name. Diana Wynne Jones. I thought it was just Diana Wynne.
See, I was
Anyways,
like, she must know more than I know. I thought it was
no.
Diana Wynne Jones, but
I
I'm
just I just put in my notes and I guess I didn't finish putting it in there. But she was the eldest sister. I was just looking it up. Yeah, she is the
oh.
eldest of two sisters.
Oh my gosh. So her
So
sister read this and was like, dude.
so her middle sister, actually I don't know which one's which, but Isabel, Isobel, it's Isobel,
Oh, that way. Interesting.
became Professor Isabel Armstrong, a literary critic.
Oh,
And
well,
Ursula, her other sister, was an actress and a writer as well. So I wonder if their careers and everything came in to fruition before her. And so she was just like, if she truly felt that way, or if it was like an inside joke between them, like,
yeah.
I'm not good because I'm the eldest. But
That's so funny. It does feel
boy,
like it would be. Wow, that's a talented family.
yeah.
Wow. All right, sweet. So, Sophie is the oldest, and her younger sisters. The middle one is Letty, and the youngest one is Martha. And uh, basically, their father passes away, and they're left. They own this hat shop with Fanny is Sophie's stepmother. She's
Okay,
Martha's
so
mother, right?
I think I missed the very beginning where they said their relationship, and I it sounded like because they were sisters, I assumed that she was her mom, but I literally wrote down like, why does she call her Fanny instead of mom? So that would make
That would
sense.
be why.
But I
Yeah,
was like, I missed that one little part, like I must have just read over it and not
yeah,
registered, and then I was like, I don't understand. Why does she call her Fanny? Is this a British
yeah.
term for mom or something that I don't know?
No,
Anyways,
Fanny is the stepmother. So Sophie and Letty, to my understanding, they're related by blood, and then Martha, it was Fanny's daughter from a previous marriage. And so when Sophie and Letty's father, who owns the hat shop, passes away, Fanny ends up taking over the hat shop, and she really quickly she sends Letty to go like apprentice witch with this witch person to
yes.
go learn magic basically, so she'll have a trade. And then she sends Martha to go apprentice at this like little bake shop that's like, I say little bake shop, it's like super popular. Like, I'm trying to think of like an equivalent. Like, it's the Krispy Kreme of their little town. And so it's also like a good little apprenticeship because Fanny's thinking this way. She won't have, she was afraid they wouldn't be able to pay all of the bills and pay for all of the kids. And so she thought that was a good financial choice, and that then the hat shop would go to Sophie as the oldest. Um, and Sophie knows the hats, and she trims all the hats and makes them all beautiful, and the hat shop actually does really well with her and Fanny in charge because she's making such beautiful hats. Um she goes to see her sister Martha at the bake shop only to find that Martha and Letty have switched places, but not. They have they have magicked themselves basically to look like the other. So,
Because Letty was like, mom sent me to be to the bakery, right? She's
oh,
the one
that's
that
right.
gets
I
sent to
said
the
it in the
bakery.
reverse. Yeah, Letty got sent to the bakery and Martha
And
got
then
sent to
Martha gets sent
apprentice.
to apprentice, and Martha's like, I don't want to be a witch. And Letty's like, I don't want to be at a bakery. I want to learn magic. So they're like, well, let's switch.
So they
And
switch
I
by
found a
like
spell.
looking like each other. And then the spell slowly fades off. So over time, they slowly sort of morph back into themselves. Like, I'm like, and no one's going to notice. Like, I thought it was interesting though, because Martha's whole thing was like, I just want to find a husband. And she's the youngest. Like, pretty much a kid at this point. And Sophie was like, "You're too young. And also, what's he going to think when one day you look like a different person?" And she's like, "Well, then I'll know that he really loves me for me." And I was like, "You're not wrong." Like, I see
Fair
your
enough.
logic. All right, Martha. And Martha's like, "Letty and I are really concerned for you." Wait, correct me up is like how many times in this book you find out that like Sophie's like, I'm all alone. No one cares for me. I am the eldest. And then like her family is just like gossiping, like, what are we gonna do about Sophie? Like they're all just worried about her all the time. Um, Basically they were afraid that Fanny was taking advantage of Sophie and using the money from the hat shop to go off and like buy frilly things and have a good time and making Sophie do all the work. And that basically Sophie finds out that is kind of what's happening. Like it's not as like there's no like animosity there.
Yeah, there's no evil intent behind it. Sophie's
Yeah.
just really good with the hats in the hat shop, and
And
Fanny
Fanny's
has
young and
wants nothing
pretty
to do
and
with it. Yeah,
yeah.
she's like,
Yep. Yep, it's
so.
true. So Sophie's in the hat shop and
On
uh
her way, on her way to visit her
oh,
sister, though, she does, it's May Day. So it's like all the couples being all lovey all over the place and trying to
yep.
pair off into couples. And
And all
this
the
guy
guys
does
hitting on
like
all the
shout to
girls.
her, trying to hit on her, and she's like all timid because she's the eldest and can't talk to people or amount to anything.
Yeah, of
And
course.
he's like, why are you so mousy? You like
It
come
was
with
actually
me.
like, yeah, it was kind of like, and this is where I'm pretty, the movie is different, right? There's like a whole
Yeah,
timeline thing.
it's soldiers that hit on her in the movie, and then Hal saves her from the soldiers from being hit
Oh,
on. Like
aw,
I was like, oh, that's different.
that's very different. And as it was, like, and to be clear, like, the whole like Mayday, all the girls get hit on thing was like, it felt like a little bit creepy, but mostly innocent. Just like,
Yeah, it wasn't aggressive at all in my
no.
opinion. It was
And
like, oh, just a hey.
yeah, and her, when she met Howl on Mayday, she didn't know who he was. And to be fair, he wasn't really creepy. He was like, seems just like taken aback by how like timid she was.
Yeah.
Like, you get like, I'm not trying to scare you. Why are you acting like a little mouse? Like, do you want me to walk you to the bakery? Are you okay? So it was actually like pretty sweet. And even though she was like, I'm the eldest, I'm too timid, that typical archetype for the eldest child. Oh God. Anyways, yeah, so she's met Hal at this point, but she doesn't actually know it's Hal. But basically everybody who lives in her town and beyond, they're like, oh, they're used to seeing the wizard Howl has this enchanted castle that moves around the hill. So sometimes it's closer to the town, sometimes it disappears, sometimes it's farther away, and they can see it moving along with smoke coming out the top. And they're like, that's the wizard Howl's castle. He goes out and snatches young girls to do with their,
And
they'll
eats
say.
their hearts or something
Yeah,
like
eats their
that.
hearts
Or
or
their,
something crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's all that people know about Wizard Howl. So definitely Sophie had absolutely no reason to recognize him. Uh, so then she returns to the hat shop and she gets this customer in who's like so grand. And she can immediately tell, like, we don't make the kind of hats that this person's gonna want. And so she like does her best or whatever. And it's all very confusing because basically without I mean it's not that confusing, it really is what it is. Without any real like she's done absolutely nothing wrong and she's
Yeah, no
like, "You know what?
explanation.
I'm going to turn you into an old woman." But she doesn't even say that. She just like makes kind of a joke about it and then like this woman is really rude and leaves. And
And then
then
Sophie's an old crone and
yep,
she accepts it like nothing
immediately.
else. Yeah.
She literally
She's like,
the witch, and it's the witch of the waste. Who everyone's like the witch of the waste is so wicked and evil, and that's true. She is. So the witch of the waste comes in, says all these hats are ugly. I would never buy them, and now you're an old crone. And Sophie looks in the mirror and is like this old woman, and she's like, I guess this is my life now. Better pack up and leave.
she's like, I suppose this was always kind of who I was anyway. Like she literally says, she's like, oh, this was always kind of who I was anyway.
Oh my God. See, and I've said since I was young, I'm like, I was born 85 years old and I'll always be 85 years old. My therapist laughs at that, but she's never once corrected me. So I do think in a way I would kind of relate to Sophie in that I'm like,
But
Except
like
that
if you were
it's such a
turned
middle
into an
child.
old crone, like would you be
I
like,
would
eh?
not accept it. I would not. I would be like, okay, so maybe now my outsides match my insides, but I'm still not okay with it. Like,
Um,
yeah,
and
immediately okay.
the other part of it is that she can't tell anyone about the spell. So now she's an old
Not
lady, but she
unless
can't tell
they,
anyone it's her, unless they
yeah,
already know about it.
yep. So that sucks. So she just, without speaking to anybody, even without like any like real processing, she like packs up a little lunch basically and she
Some
leaves.
bread and cheese, it's all
Some
you
bread and
need.
cheese. And then she, as she's walking, she finds that while she's relatively um hale, they say in the book, which I guess is like agile for like an older woman,
Says
she's kind of like
spry.
she's spry, but she's an older woman now. So she's an old woman now. I don't know, I'm trying to be like diplomatic, like Sophie's an old
She's
woman now.
88.
And so she's having trouble walking. And so she's like, oh, okay, I'll just need to find like a good walking stick. And so she sees something sticking out of the bushes. She's heading up into the hills, like towards the last place that you saw, the castle moving along, Howl's Castle, although she has absolutely no plan. And so she thinks that she sees a walking stick. She pulls it out. It's a scarecrow that basically got stuck and turned over in like some bushes or something, or in a ditch. So she sets it upright. She talks to it. And then which to me, like, none of this seems strange. She like talks to everything. And I was like, this is just normal. I
I
swear.
love her dialogue. I
It's
love
so good.
both her internal and, but most of her, she doesn't have a ton of internal because it's all
It's
external. She
all
thinks it and she
external.
says it. She talks
I
to the
loved
hat, she
it.
talks to the scarecrow, she talks to like any
I
the
love it so
spiders,
much.
like and I also liked that they put that in the movie because I didn't remember and I was like, oh, her like dialogue, her internal kind of thoughts are the best thing, and then she does in the movie. I was like, yes, this makes it. This is good.
So good. I definitely loved that. And I also definitely related to that one. Oh no, it's my main character syndrome. It's been a while. Good to see you again. Um, ah! Oh, oh, I almost died. My husband just came into the room. I didn't hear him open the door. I just heard him mockingly laugh, like doing like, his imitation of my laugh, but not as pretty as mine. Hi, welcome back. You. Still looking around like he doesn't know who I'm talking to. All right. Anyways, sorry for that distraction. You can blame my husband. I do. Um, what was that? You want to go?
Where are we
Where?
going?
Exactly. Where? All right. So then she does end up finding finding a walking stick, which she speaks to, as she speaks to every inanimate and animate thing, which is amazing. And then she's basically like, I'm too tired for this. I'm getting too old for this. And she sees Howl's Moving Castle and she's like, F it. I'm gonna go stand there by the fire. It's getting cold out here. Obviously there's a fire. And so she basically chases around the damn castle trying to like get in the door. And the castle is definitely avoiding her. But she does finally manage to make it inside where she meets this adorable little apprentice.
Oh my gosh, I love him.
He's so cute. His name is, now I'm gonna question myself. Michael, right?
It's Michael. It's different in the
Yeah.
movie, but I forget what it is, sorry. But yeah,
I'm
it's
not
Michael.
shocked that it's different in the movie because I was like, Michael feels like such a normal name for
I think it's
like,
like Marco in the movie.
that feels a
Um,
little bit more
yeah.
correct, but I could be wrong.
But yeah, it is
Um,
Michael in the book, yeah.
it's Michael. And doesn't he look younger in the movie? Because he's like 15 or something in
Yes,
the book.
yes, that's another thing. In the
Yeah.
movie, he seems like he's like 8, but he's
Yeah.
15
He's
in the book
15.
because, yeah.
Yeah. I liked it that way though. I mean,
Yes, I
I
like him
remember
all.
enjoying the movie and I do plan to watch it again, but just knee-jerk reaction, book's still so much better than the movie. I don't know
Yes.
what your opinion is. Um, yeah, so basically Michael's like, "Hello, old woman. Not to kick you out or anything, but the wizard isn't here right now and he's gonna be like really mad if you stay here." And she's like, "Get out of my way." And so
She's
she
like,
just
I'm tired and I'm cold.
you've heard the phrase weaponized incompetence. This is like weaponized old personness. She's like, I gotta get in off my feet. And so she goes and sits down by the fire. And then And basically, sweet Michael's like, there's literally nothing I can do about this. And so he just like finishes up his work and goes to bed. And she's like, ah, perfect, just what I wanted. And then she wakes up, and I forget how it happens exactly, but discovers that the fire that has been keeping her warm is alive. It's like a being, it's got eyes. Its name is Calcifer, and he's a total little shit, and I love him. Oh God, he's good. Anyways, so the wizard Howl, okay, he hasn't come back yet. Basically, Michael wakes up and he's like, "You're still here. I was really hoping you had left." And she was like, "Yeah, right. Am I missing
Well,
something?"
first,
Oh,
when she meets Calcifer,
right.
he's like, "Wow, that's
The
a
central
nasty
plot
curse
point.
you have. That's a nasty curse you have on you." And
Hmm.
she's like, "How do you know I'm cursed?" But since he does, she can talk about it. And he's like, "Well, I could break that curse, but you have to break my contract." And she's like, "What's your contract?" He's like, "I can't tell you." She's like, "Well, okay then."
Yeah.
Um, but basically, we find out that he has a contract with Hal that he can't speak about,
Hmm.
that keeps him there, and he knows that she's under a curse. So they kind of make a deal after some old person grumping. that- We're not here to insult old people if you're like in your
No,
80s and
this
listening to this
has much more to do
podcast.
with Sophie's personality. Because to be fair, she was, quote, old person grumping long before she looked like an old person. I
Yes.
understand completely. This maybe you know what? I'm having like a moment of clarity in my own life. This morning, Javi kept telling me that he thinks that I just complain all the time, and I was like, I genuinely don't know what you're talking about. And now I'm like, am I just like old person grumping? Like to me, I'm just having conversation. Like I'm just talking into like the ether, and I just sounds like I'm complaining because I'm an old grumpy person. Anyways, so I understand. It's not we're not like, oh, old people are all grumpy, but Sophie is. And she was when she was
Yes.
like, how old is she
Young.
originally?
She is an age. I'm gonna go with
Like
18.
I was gonna say 18 because isn't like Letty 16 or something? Something like that in that
Yeah,
general
I
range.
think Martha's 14. And then
Hmm.
I think Letty is 16. So she's either 17 or 18, something like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Um,
Okay, that makes sense. I'm gonna go with 18 because I'm
but
pretty sure
yeah,
that Wizard Howl's significantly older.
her and Calcifer make a deal that they're gonna break each other's curses essentially.
Yeah.
And so she's like, well, that means I can't leave. So then when Michael comes down, he's like, "You're still here. Aren't you leaving?" She's like, "Nope."
She's like, nope, but I'll make breakfast. And he's like, and she's like, where's all your food? And he's like, here's some bread and cheese. And she's like, no, like, here's the fresh food. Here, I'll make some bacon. And he goes, Calcifer won't let anybody cook over him except for Hal. And she's like, nonsense. And so then she goes over to Calcifer and she threatens him. She's like, I'm gonna take away every one of your logs. And I was like, oh my God, babysitter Sophie, I love this. Um, and so Calcifer also she has the fact that she's like, if you don't let me, then I'm just gonna leave and you're stuck and I'm not gonna fix your contract or try and break your contract or whatever. And so he's like, ugh, may your bacon burn or something, whatever your
Yeah.
shirt
I
says.
hope I hope all your bacon burns.
I hope all your bacon burns. Which is so interesting, so funny. So Sophie makes bacon and Michael's like, how is she doing that? And then Howl appears. How to describe the wizard Howl at first sight? Howl Jenkins Pendragon. Hmm.
I can't like visually describe him at all. He's vain for one, so he's like,
Incredibly vain, and it's hard to describe him visually because he's constantly changing his appearance.
yeah.
He like dyes his hair all the time. He like spends hours in the bathroom every day. I mean, to me that just sounds like a normal man thing. But like he's just in there primping the hell out of himself with like magic. So he's like using like magic and spells to like mess with his eye color, his hair color. Like it's
Smooth
crazy.
as skin.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like super beautiful, but like in kind of like a too beautiful, kind of fake looking way. And I just can remember so vividly. She's like, his sleeves billow. Always with the billowing sleeves. So enter Howl, stunningly beautiful. So wildly over dramatic. If you think that you know a dramatic person in your life, you don't. You don't know until you know Howl Jenkins Pendragon. And in the movie doesn't even, to my memory, do him justice. And all of the memes
No,
back me
not
up
at
on that
all.
one. Mm-mm,
Not at all.
no. But in the book, like it's just, oh my God, the drama is unreal. And he's dramatic about things like that nobody should be. And then things that you would think he would have a reaction to, like a random old woman being in his home. He's kind of like, whatever. And he basically just kind of ignores the fact that she's there. Like he makes like a little bit of conversation with her, but he won't answer any of her questions. And she's like, so I can stay? And he just doesn't answer. And she's like, well, I'm just gonna stay then.
Yeah,
So,
she's like, I'm gonna be your cleaning lady.
yep,
And then
exactly.
proceeds to clean the whole castle, and drive everyone nuts doing it.
Yep.
She,
Basically, it's oh my God, it's just so funny because Sophie's just constantly cleaning and Hal's just like, drat that old woman, she won't stop cleaning everything. I liked those spiders. And she's like, spiders don't belong in the house, basically. And they're just like always at each other, but like you can see the affection for each other growing and it's so, so subtle. This is what you call a slow
yes,
burn, if you can even
yes.
call it that. It's so funny. I cannot express how much you all should read this book if you haven't, because it's just delightful. Anyway, so she's cleaning the castle. She's trying to make headway, trying to figure out the contract, what the contract is between Calcifer and Howl. They've made very little progress. I'm trying to think like what's the next big plot point that happens?
Um, well, Hal also lets her stay because he's impressed that Calcifer bowed down his head for her to cook on. He's like, that
Cook
doesn't
bacon
happen.
on, of course.
Um, And then there's this door in the castle that leads to four different places, depending on what color you turn it to, essentially.
Hmm.
So Hal's always running in and out, and they're like selling spells and potions to different people that come and buy them.
Yeah,
So they find out, or Sophie finds out that where she's from, Market Shipping, everyone's terrified of Hal because he eats young girls' hearts.
of
But
course.
everywhere else, like as he's known as Wizard Jenkins or Wizard Pendragon or whatever, they come to him for magic.
Yeah,
Um, and they find out he goes to the king to do something for the king. He's requested by the king.
right.
This is where it drastically separates the book and the movie, like drastically.
Yeah.
Um, but basically he's like, the king's gonna want me to find his brother. His brother's been missing.
Hmm.
There's
Justin. Can we just
Prince
Prince
Justin. I know
Justin?
the name. The name.
It is not a princely name. Sorry if your name's Justin, but like maybe use like your middle name if you want to be a prince. I don't know.
Prince Justin, and like the king had previously sent Wizard Solomon, who had been this like the greatest wizard they had known, after him into
Now
the
that's a
waste.
wizard name,
Yes,
unlike
where
Jenkins.
where wizard or where the Witch of the Waste is in the waste. They had sent Solomon to find Prince Justin, and he never came back. So now Hal's like, the king's gonna try and make me go after him. I just know he is, and I need to get out of this. How do I get out of this? And he's like, I need someone to blacken my name to the king. Sophie, you can do that. Uh,
They say the phrase blacken my name or blacken his name so, so many times. It's delightful, and I think we should really bring that phrase back.
um,
Yeah. She definitely doesn't want to. She says she's not going to for a long time. I'm trying to, why is this such a blur to me? Like, what made her decide to actually go do it?
I don't know.
Right?
Um, but he there's also like actually this whole middle part is very jumbled in my brain. So
It is for
I'm
me
just
too,
gonna,
and I don't
yeah.
understand. Like, I
So
really
like
did pay
we
attention to this whole thing, I swear.
we find out Hal's an extreme womanizer too. So he chases after women until they fall in love with him, and as soon as they fall in love with him, he's like, oh, I'm done with them. Which I thought was going to be like a plot point, as in it was a curse or something. I can see Javi in the
I know. I like darted out a camera so I could like blow my nose, and then when I move, you can see my husband directly across the room. Hey, Javi.
Um,
Why?
so we found out he's this extreme womanizer and that he went after the Witch of the Waste and then broke her heart, so now she's after him. And that's part of the reason why he moves the castle around all the time. But there's this new girl that he just can't get to fall in love with him, and he tries and he tries and he tries. And eventually we find out this new girl's name is Letty
Really?
Hatter.
Yes. Yep.
And Sophie's like,
Over
that's my
my dead
sister.
body.
Which won't be long because I'm very old.
Yep, yep, it's true. Yeah, and Michael's very upset by this also because he
Yes.
thinks that he is in love with Letty Hatter. And then it's this whole kerfuffle where you figure out that the Letty Hatter that Michael is in love with is Martha, and the Letty Hatter that Howl is trying to woo is
It's Letty.
the actual Letty, and she's told her
Yes.
secret that she's not actually Martha to him. And just as a fun fact, when Hal goes to see her, because he's going to see like the witch who's training her, and that's I think how he meets Letty, like the actual Letty. But he's wearing a suit that Sophie fixed, and when she fixed it, she was like grumping, I guess is the word for it. She was grumping to it, saying like, "Oh, this suit, I'm sure, is just gonna make all the girls fall in love with him." And that comes into play later, and I will just say, words have power. And so yeah, Letty sort of starts to fall for him some, and Hal's like, Letty Hatter. And Sophie's like, I hate my life. Um,
Then when Sophie's looking through the doors, someone knocks on one of the doors and Calcifer's like, I
oh
can't really
yeah.
tell who's knocking on the door. Like I can't tell if it's a person or this or that. Because usually he's like, it's this person or like this and that.
Oh
Um,
right, this part. I remembered this
and
from the movie and it
she
creeped
opens
me
the
out.
door, and yeah, I remembered it from the movie too, but it's also very different in the movie.
Yeah.
And she opens it, and it's the scarecrow that she had helped up from that she had tried to get as a walking stick, like way before that she had been like, you go find your fortune and I'll go find mine. And now the
Hmm.
scarecrow is trying to burst into the castle, and it absolutely terrifies her.
It terrifies
And
me. Can you tell? It's like
I
giving me
know,
anxiety, and I don't
I
know
know.
why. There's no reason it should. It's just
It's
giving me
scary. It's really well scarily written. Like I think if I was a kid, I would have a nightmare after reading that part or having that part read to me. Like
I
it's
have the impression that I have had a nightmare, like, because I saw the movie once, like, as a kid, and I just, like, as soon as, like, the scarecrow was at the door in the book, I was like, oh my God, I'm pretty sure I've had a nightmare about this. And then I, like, flash of what the scarecrow looks like in the movie, and I was like, oh my God, wow,
yeah.
it imprinted on me.
Um and so she like slams the door on it and tells Howl to like or not Howl, Calcifer to speed up. Speed up the castle, speed up the castle. So Calcifer starts running. She basically passes out because she's having a heart attack because she's old and terrified.
Yeah.
And Calcifer speeds up really fast until he basically can't anymore. The scarecrow's gone, but Calcifer is like a dying little flame. And then Michael and Hal come back, and Hal's like, "What did you do to Calcifer?" And she's like, "There was a scarecrow." And they're both like, "You're dumb."
Oh man,
Uh,
yeah.
and um, but the next day, Calcifer's like, "No, I was just tired," and he like becomes a big flame again.
Oh man, that's funny. All right.
I'm
I
not
don't know.
sure this is all in order, honestly.
I don't either. I
There's
don't know
also a
why I'm
part,
struggling.
um, when does Hal like slime up the castle too? Oh, when Sophie's cleaning everything, she ends up cleaning up his bathroom with all his potions and
Hmm.
mixing them up. And so he puts one in his hair that turns his hair pink. So he comes out and he's so vain. He's just like, "Oh, you've ruined my life. No one will ever love me now." And he
It's so
just creates this green slime that like drowns everything and everyone.
and Sophie has to clean it up and she's so mad. She's like, he did this just to spite me. And he's just like miserable, covered in green slime. And it just the level of drama this man has because he's a wizard. It's not like his hair's pink and he can't do anything about it. Even
Change it
if he
right back.
couldn't,
I
he could
know.
literally just change it right back. And he's like, she's ruined my life. this old woman is trying to kill me. And you're like, dude.
But she's also like, I had younger sisters. I know how to deal with a tantrum.
Yes, and it's so nice because like Calcifer never has anything helpful to say. And Michael's like, "Oh my gosh, is he okay?" And yep, Sophie's like, "Yeah, I've got this. Just he's throwing a tantrum. Whatever." It's so nice.
But going back to, I think, a more main plot point. So at some point, Sophie's supposed to blacken his name to the king.
Oh
And
yeah.
I don't remember why she agrees to it either. But he says before you go to the king, because that's all finery and things, and you're poor and old, you don't know how to be fine. We're gonna go visit my old teacher because she is extremely fine and she will be able to teach you how to be
Yes,
fine.
so refined. Yep. Yeah, and when
So
she goes and she talks to this woman, so this old teacher essentially it sounds like kind of raised Hal, definitely like taught him magic. And the older I don't know why I can't remember her name, but like the old witch basically is like
Mrs. Penstemmons, I think, is what it
Mrs.
is.
Penstemmons. She's like, I'm getting worried about Hal. I feel like there's something like not right with him. And when they're there, Sophie pretends to be Hal's mother, which is a little funny because like Mrs. Penstemon or Penstemon or whatever, she definitely like knew what was going on. She was a highly skilled witch, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. And did we learn anything? I think at that point, doesn't she? Oh, and at that point, oh right, because Calcifer's like, you might, if you pay attention, you might even learn something about my contract today, and that's happens to coincide with when they go see Mrs. Penstemon or Penstemon. This is the part I listened to an audiobook, so I didn't see it spelled.
I'm gonna say with a T.
Right? That sounds more
Penstemon?
correct.
Yeah.
Penstemon sounds more correct. So, uh, when they're there, basically, Hal's not with Sophie when she's talking to Mrs. Penstemon. Um, she says, "Yeah, you know what could be off with Howl is that he's made a deal with a demon. I don't know if we mentioned this. Calcifer is a fire demon, they say, which was kind of funny to me because I was like, you would think that like there would be anything remotely demonic about him since they're calling him a demon, which is a pretty strong word, but it's just kind of like a magical fire creature, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
He's spoiler, he used to be a falling star.
I was like, yeah, and he's not even really a demon. I mean, obviously he is in the context of the book, but he's a star. He's not a
He's a
demon. Like, I
star,
don't
yeah.
understand.
I don't understand
Stars
either.
are
That's like
demons. That's
strange,
how the lore.
strange. I also had a hard time following that part of the lore. But yeah, so Fire Demon
But she's
Calcifer.
also like, that's what happened to the Witch of the Waste. She has a demon and
Mm-hmm. Yes, she
it
also has her own
it
fire
turned her
demon.
evil.
Yep, exactly. And she's so the reason the Witch of the Waste is after Hal is at first I kind of thought it was just about like revenge because Hal was like, "Oh, you're actually ugly now. I don't want to be with you," which is incredibly rude. Um but actually I think it's because she wants Calcifer because I don't know. She wants Calcifer. She has a
No,
fire
there's a different
demon.
reason,
There's a
but
different
we'll come
reason.
to it. Yeah.
Okay, I
And
don't
you'll
remember.
remember when it happens, you're like, oh yeah.
This is why I
Um,
cannot do this podcast by myself ever.
She's like, did I read the book?
Did I read this? I have absolutely no memory. Mrs. Penstemon, Mrs. Penstemon. But Sophie tells Mrs. Penstemon, well, he made a deal with the demon. And she's like, yeah, that would do it. And that's basically it. At some point,
Yeah,
also before this, Michael chases a falling star and he tries to save it.
for
And
a
so,
spell.
yeah, for a spell. And so that also provides some context here.
Oh,
Um,
does that mean that before this is when they go to Wales? Oh my gosh, we're so
when did they
bad at
go to
this.
Wales?
That's what I'm
I,
trying to figure out in which part of it they go to Wales. Because they go to, it's after they chase the falling star. And
mhm,
Hal's like, you're an idiot. If you catch the star, do not ever catch the star. Like, don't do that. That's horrible. And
yeah,
then the like black door, that's Hal's secret place to go to that like they're never allowed to go to. He's like, fine, come with me here. So they go there and it's Wales. Like, they don't really say that specifically, but you find out later that Hal's from Wales. So like Wales is in the real place, whereas everything else is like a made up world.
yeah,
Um, so he's from like the real world Wales, and his sister's there, and she's like, "You're such a bum and a disappointment." Like I
She's got
liked
a
that.
cute little daughter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was cute. That his niece and nephew like love him and hang out with him, and he's like, "Oh, I have this whole other life." And then the reason they go there is because the spell Michael was trying to do actually wasn't a spell. It got mixed up with his nephew's homework.
Yep.
So
That's what
Hal's
it
like, "Oh, we
was.
have to get the actual spell and give him the homework back." And when he
Yeah.
does that, he goes to see his nephew's teacher, who is, I don't remember her name.
Is
Um,
she the one who dies early?
no.
Spoiler. For
No,
someone
that's
in the
Miss
book, somebody dies.
No, that's not her. Um,
It's Mrs. Penstemon who dies,
yes,
right? Okay, that's
yes,
what I thought.
yes.
Okay, that's who dies.
Yeah,
And that happens very quickly after they were there, so I'm not too far ahead. Like
yeah,
I'm giving you a spoiler
that's
by
why.
like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I was gonna say they went to Wales first, and they meet this teacher who I can't remember her name, but um, Sophie's like, "I can see by the way Hal's looking at her, like Letty isn't even a thing anymore. Like he's after this teacher." So
Right.
they go
Oh,
back
that's right.
to the castle, and Hal proceeds for the next several days to go back and try and woo this teacher.
Hmm.
And she's like unaffected because
And
she is.
Sophie is getting pissed. And like obviously the book doesn't say Sophie was jealous, but in every way that a woman has ever been jealous, Sophie is very evidently jealous. And it's kind of entertaining.
Um, Mrs. Angorian, that's her name.
Yes, Mrs.
Or
Angorian.
Miss Angorian.
Hmm.
So then Sophie has to blacken his name as king. They go see Mrs. Penstemon. They leave Mrs. Penstemon and go straight to the king. And Sophie has to go by herself. Like Michael and Hal take her there, but then they're like, "You
Hmm.
stay here." Sophie goes by herself. She just wants to talk to Hal's mother. And are you frozen?
Yeah, you're frozen, but I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, now you're back.
And um Sophie goes to the king and she immediately forgets everything Hal trained her to say, like to blacken his name. And she just is basically like very brutally honest with the king. She's like, "He's a slitherer. He slithers out of everything."
He's a
And
good for nothing. I'm warning
yeah.
you, my son, because she's pretending to be his mom. Yeah. She's like, he's a horrible, horrible young man, and he is going to slither out of everything, and he's not the right one to do what you want to find your brother. And the
And the
king's like,
king's like, "That's
perfect.
exactly what I wanted to hear. He shall do it."
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like,
The king's logic is hard to follow.
so he's like, "I shall order him to go find him now." And then Sophie leaves and she's like, "Oh, talking to her stick and everything." Oh, and she finds out, goodness gracious, we're back and forth. But this is how my brain works. So to be
Same,
fair,
same. Yeah.
when she talks to Mrs. Penstemon, Mrs. Penstemmon's like, "Your son's a very powerful wizard, but I suppose that he comes by it genetically. Usually it doesn't always run in families, but like I can tell you're a witch." And she's like,
Oh,
"I'm not a."
yes.
Actually, Sophie's not even like, "I'm not a witch. I have that in my notes." Sophie's like, "Huh, makes sense. I'm a witch." And like just accepts it,
It's
just
true.
like
She's never once like, no. Like,
yeah,
she's like,
just like when she turns into an old crone, she's like, makes sense. I'm an old person." And then she's like, "Oh, you're a witch." She's like, makes sense. I'm a witch." Um,
it's true. Yeah, because
she's
she
like,
mentioned something about having like you've talked so much magic into that stick of yours. It's basically a magic wand.
yeah, her walking
Yeah.
stick, because again, all of Sophie's internal thoughts are external thoughts. So she's just told the stick everything. She talked to Hal's jacket, which made it attract women. She used to talk to all the hats that she made in the hat shop, which is
Hmm.
why it was so successful. And she was like, "You're gonna find riches. You're gonna marry rich," to the hat, and then
Yeah.
the person who wears it marries rich. So, Sophie is a witch and she leaves the king very disgruntled. And then she's trying to find her way back to Hal and Michael, but she kind of takes a wrong turn and ends up face to face with the Witch of the Waste.
Hmm.
And the Witch of the Waste recognizes her because she's like, "I know any old face that I turn into an old face. What are you doing here?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm going to see the king, because to ask for a job or something like that," I think Sophie says. She
I don't
that's
remember
why
what
she's
she
going to
says,
see the
but
king.
yeah, she
Oh,
says
to
she's
like
going
better
to.
wages for hatters or something like that.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah.
She's like, we're unionizing.
Oh man.
And the Witch of the Waste is like,
All
"Oh,
right,
are
go
you
for
sure?
it.
Then I'll go with you. You weren't going to see Mrs. Penstemon, were you? Because she's dead. I killed her."
And Sophie's
Um,
like almost like, I just saw her. And then she's like, well, I guess that's how it happens. Someone's alive 1 second, dead the next. I was like,
yeah.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's okay to have a moment of like, what?
She just accepts everything in life without like the hesitation. She's like, "Ah,
That's
yes,
true.
makes sense. Ah, yes, makes
Makes
sense."
sense. Yeah. So that's pretty sad. She's like, the Witch of the Waste is like, yep, I wanted information. I'm trying to find Howl, the wizard Howl. And she wouldn't tell me, so I killed her. And Sophie's like, this is awkward. And then the Witch of the Waste essentially escorts her to the steps of the castle, and she's like,
The
drat.
castle to make sure she's going there. So
Yeah.
Sophie's like, now I have to make an excuse to see the king again. So she tells the guard, she's like, I forgot to tell him something. And she goes back in there. She's like, also, how's lazy or something? I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much.
One more thing.
It's so good. It's so funny. Yeah. So at what then they go she at some point she's back in Howl's castle again and the scarecrow has come back around
And
and
Hal's
she
there this time. And he's like, oh, wow, that actually is a scary scarecrow.
yeah. And what she tells it to go away like fast or something. And
Yeah,
so
she's like, you leave at like double the speed or something like 10 times
yeah.
as fast. And then a
Yep.
dog appears.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Then there's a dog. There's a dog.
And and the dog turns into a man real quick and then back into a dog. And so Sophie's like, oh, this is a dog that's a man. Let's keep it. And Hal's like, oh, we have a dog now? And she's like, yes. And he's like, okay.
He's like, whatever, I guess. Yeah. Um, yep. And he's still this
They
whole time trying to boo Miss
Hal and the Witch
Angorian.
of the Waste end up in a battle at some point, which I don't remember how and why. I just
There's
know
like
that they're
three
like
battles or
crashing
something.
thunderstorms through the
Yeah.
sky.
Mm-hmm. You're frozen again. But yeah, you're correct. Now you're
Um,
back.
I actually think that might have been right before he takes her to Wales for the first time or something, but I might be completely off. Um,
I mean, that sounds correct, but we can't trust my judgment at
I
all.
know. So he's like, so at that point he's like, oh, she's one step closer to catching me. So they end up moving the house where the house is located,
Hmm.
like in the different
Cities.
areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the different cities, not where the actual moving castle is located, but it has like solid houses in each place the door goes to.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, there's this shop for sale in Market Chipping. It used to be like an old hat shop." And
Yeah.
Sophie's
It's
like,
like a
"Oh, I know
mansion
this
or
place."
something now. Yeah.
So it's literally the Hatter shop that Sophie used to work at, and they
Hmm.
put the castle there. They move it there to hide from the Witch of the Waste.
And
But
they turn it into a flower shop and then they
yes,
like repaint the little signs or colors on the door or whatever. So now the when they turn the knob and open the door, it opens to a different place where there's all these beautiful flowers and in the distance you can see the waste. So like you can get to the waste from that door, but also they go and like gather all these beautiful flowers every day so that they can bring them back and turn the doorknob and then open the door onto what is it, Chipping Street? Is that where she's from? Something like
Market
that.
Chipping.
Market Chipping, and sell flowers. And I definitely thought that people were like not gonna recognize her as Sophie, but that didn't happen at all.
Well,
Like
they
the people
don't.
who knew her, they don't. Well, not
Well,
until later.
yeah.
Again, I'm jumping around because that's just what we
Mrs.
do here.
Angorian comes to the door, the one that Hal's trying to woo, and she's like, I have to speak to Hal. And Sophie's like, no, get out of here. And like
Yeah.
shoves her out and doesn't let her in to the
Hmm.
room at all. And she's like, no, I have to talk to him. She's looking for uh, her fiance that she's still engaged to
Right.
that disappeared years ago. But like she's looking
Hmm.
for this fiance.
Yeah.
And can I say that as someone who prides myself at like pre-predicting what's happening or whatever,
Hmm.
um, I I kind of remembered the scarecrow was someone. Um, and then the dog that's a human, I was like, I think that's her fiance. I was like, dog. I think that's her fiance. Like that's what my prediction was. Um,
I remembered nothing. I was like, oh, interesting. She's looking for her fiance.
um, so then what's next?
Well, Sophie was real mad, and then she's like, "This guitar, where did this guitar come from? This belonged to my fiance." And Sophie's like, "Stop touching that. Get out of here." Um, and
Yes.
that happens, and so she gets basically shooed on out the door, and then she's so freaking angry. Sophie's like pissed, like for like days, and Hal's like, "Huh, Sophie's in a mood. Don't know what that's about," and she's so mad that like basically like she I'm just guessing by like virtue of the magic, like then who she is, creates weed killer essentially. Of like there's like a bunch of flowers and she has thoroughly killed them because she has basically inadvertently magicked the water to be totally toxic. And so Howl's like, well, you might as well go out, go kill some of the weeds on this other lawn. The one, I forget which store they open, and go kill the weeds or whatever. And the dog man has turned back. She's been Hal has found out, I think, at this point that the dog man is in fact a man,
Yes,
and
and he
he
turns him
he
into
turns him
back to a
back.
man fully so he can talk about
Yes.
the Witch of the
Yeah.
Waste turned him. And he's like, I
Yeah.
don't really remember why she turned me. All I know is
Yeah.
that she turned me. And Letty sent me here.
Yes, Letty sent him there to look after Sophie, but he doesn't tell Hal that part. He just tells Sophie that part because Hal's like, here, go with Sophie while she goes and throws poison on everything to get it out of her system, you know? And so then he goes with her and he explains like that he met Letty and that Letty had basically figured out that she was turned into an old woman and was with Hal and that she wanted someone to watch over her. And so that's what he was doing. And also, like, he's part of two different people, the man, like there's his head and then like the body, like they don't match because apparently the Witch of the Waste does a thing where she just like cuts people's heads off and like n-
Takes
n-
parts of them.
takes different body parts and Frankenstein's people, which is very concerning.
Um, then Fanny shows up to the castle and she's like, she's looking for a spell or something, but then she sees Sophie and she's like, "Oh my God, it's you, Sophie!" And then in
Yeah,
this,
she recognizes her instantly.
and then Martha shows up and she's like, "Sophie!" And Letty shows up and she's like, "Sophie!" Like all at once, there's this big
Yeah.
family reunion.
Yep.
And I was like, this is weird that they all just show up at the same
This
time. But then you
feels
find,
convenient.
yeah, then you find out that Hal arranged it because he's like,
Sophie
he,
was so mad.
yeah, and he knew, and at this point that he tells her too, that he knows that she's under a curse and that she's young and that like he had figured out through Letty and everything because Letty had mentioned Sophie and all this. But he was like, I thought if I brought your family here, you'd be less of a grump. And she's like, ah. Um, but
Joke's on you.
while that happens, he has to, uh, oh, the Witch of the Waste gets his family in Wales. So like
Yep.
he runs out after his family in Wales. He's like, Calcifer, they've got me on my weak flank.
Yeah.
And runs out to save his family in Wales. And meanwhile, all everyone, Sophie and all her family are in the castle, like, ah, what do we do? And then you hear the Witch of the Waste in the castle be like, that was a trick. How I have Miss Angora now, Angoria.
Miss
Um,
Angorian.
yeah, Angorian.
Yes.
So,
Oh, this
I
also
don't really
happens
have your
after
family.
the Scarecrow. Sophie lets in
Oh
Scarecrow
yeah, the Scarecrow is
on the
let in.
advice of Calcifer
Calcifer.
or
Calcifer's like,
Michael.
he doesn't have mean intent. Calcifer says he doesn't have mean intent. He can like feel that through the
Yeah.
castle. But the Witch of the Waste, like over the atmosphere in the castle,
The
says,
loudspeakers.
yeah, yeah. Michael, let Howl know that I have Miss Angoria, and if he ever wants to see her again, he'll come to me in the waste.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, ah, panic. And Sophie's like, I'm gonna do something about this. So she takes her walking stick and leaves and walks through the waste all the
Yep.
way to the witch's castle. And she
Yep.
marches herself in there. She sees the guards and she's like, I made sure to be polite to the guards so they know that I don't have any quarrels with them.
So good.
She
Oh
goes in
gosh.
and finds the Witch of the Waste, and she's like, "Give back Miss Angoria!" And the Witch of the Waste has her henchmen, which are like these orange blobs, glue
Yep.
Sophie to the wall. But she notices that the Witch of the Waste is afraid of her walking stick.
When she waves her walking stick around. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone freaks out. And then, as the Witch of the Waste is kind of like, no, Miss Angoria's, you're the real trap. Like, Hal's gonna come for you. You're the real trap.
Yeah.
Then someone like bursts through, I don't know, a door, the atmosphere, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And
Whatever.
it's the Scarecrow. And
Yep.
they get into this epic battle, the Scarecrow and the Witch of the
Yeah.
Waste.
The
And
Scarecrow
then
is the wizard Solomon.
the Wizard Solomon. And then, well, he's enchanted by him. And
Yeah.
then, um, and then Hal appears and just kind of watches the battle. And then he's like, oh, and he says the magic words, and the witch dies.
Hmm.
And the wizard Solomon's like looking at her bones, and Hal's like, I don't think her heart's there. And Sophie's like, we have to save Miss Angoria. And Hal's like, you silly old woman. Um,
Yep.
Miss Angoria is the witch's fire demon.
Yep.
And Sophie's like, what? And he's
He's
like,
like,
but it's,
probably not the best time to mention it, but Miss Angoria has been in your house, even though you're
yeah.
like, don't let her in there. And
He's
I
like,
did.
yeah, and he's like, well, it's fine as long as she didn't touch anything. And she's like, oh, like that guitar? Because she probably, maybe, definitely touched that. And Hal's like, we must away, you silly woman. And as
Yep.
they go back to the castle and they get there, and he's like, everyone, the demon's here, like,
Yep.
you know. And then Miss Angoria slash the fire demon comes out of the
Slash the
guitar.
guitar. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, "Mwah, ha 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 ha, I have you now." Oh, and something we missed real quick is that when Sophie's at the Witch of the Waste's place, um, there's like this body that comes out, and it's
Oh
without a
yeah.
head. It's just a body, and
Yep.
she realizes it's like pieces of Prince Justin and pieces of Wizard Solomon, like pieced together. And the Witch of the Waste is like, all
So
I need is Hal's head for it.
and then it will
Um,
be what would she say? She's so deranged. She's like the perfect husband, basically. She's like,
but
oh God, it's just she's like, and I will be the queen, he will be the king, and I will be the queen. And I'm like, what's wrong with you?
oh, the perfect man
Oh,
does exist. But
oh, it was so deeply horrifying.
but the yeah, back at the house castle, um Miss Angoria slash Fire Demon is like, I've got you now, and she reaches into Calcifer and pulls out what is actually Hal's heart and starts
Mm-hmm.
squeezing it. She goes all Queen of Hearts on it
Oh
and is
yeah,
like,
yep.
one, off with his head, and second of all, I like this heart. Um, and she squeezes it, and Hal passes out, and she's like, he's faking. And Casper's like, no, he's actually very delicate.
He's actually very soft-hearted,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Um, and so Sophie's like, Hal had told her, like, you just never think before you act. So she's like, oh, I have to think before I act. So she tells her stick to beat Miss Angoria, but don't hurt anyone else.
yep.
And so the stick just starts like beating her. And she's like, ah! And then it catches on fire because she has like Calcifer and the heart in her hand. And
Yep.
so it's beating her with fire, and she's catching on fire, but then it can't beat her if anyone else is around her.
Yep.
Um, and I don't remember if she drops the heart or Sophie somehow gets the heart, gets Hal's heart.
Yeah, wow, I
And
can't remember either.
she's like, oh, I know what I need to do now to break Calcifer's contract. And she asks Calcifer, she's like, if I do this, will you die? And he's like, if literally anyone else did it, I would, but not you. And so she's like, Calcifer, you will live for 10,000 more years. And then puts the heart back into Hal and is like, heart, you'll go in where you should, and he'll
You
live.
get in there and do your
'Cause-
job.
Yeah, because
Something.
literally all she does is just tell things what to do,
I
and they
love
do
it
them.
so much.
That's her magic. And
Uh,
so Hal comes to life. Calcifer's released, and he goes poof into non-existence. And I don't actually remember how the fire demon dies.
He
Miss
flies out the chimney
Angoria.
and is like, "I'm free," and then Miss Angoria, she
She
so Sophie has all of her family basically. She's like, block all the exits, don't let her out. And there's what is it? She has like an ally.
I know that the dog man tries to open the door for her.
Yes, because
And
he's like
then
under her control or something.
maybe the scarecrow? I don't know. Um, gosh, we both read this book like very recently.
Oh, Hal, I know, literally like finished it yesterday. Hal basically he wakes back up and he's like, Sophie, and she's like, I'm here. Oh, and also while all this is happening, the only sign that you know so far in the book is that her hair falls into her face. It's red. And you're like, not old, gray hair, interesting. And then we just move on very quickly because it's Sophie. And he wakes up and she's like, so something's happening over there. See that like flaming stick that's beating Miss Angoria? Do you think we could like do something about that? And so basically, Hal just stands up and like
Oh yeah, he says his
abracadabra.
magic words, yeah, his
Yeah.
words of power,
Yep.
and the demon's gone. And
The
then
demon's gone. He crushes the heart, and Miss Angoria disappears.
yeah,
Um,
and then
yeah,
Sophie and Hal have eyes for no one but each other, which I felt like in the book was very like, because how you're saying slow burn, like slower than slow burn.
yeah,
The ending, it didn't feel wrong necessarily, but it didn't feel like it quite fit. Like you knew they were kind of
hmm
going towards each other, but they still had so much farther to go. I felt than them being like, Hal
I
literally
know,
says, well, I guess let's live happily ever after. And they were like,
I
oh, yes,
know.
we're in love. And I was like, you weren't there yet, though.
It
Like,
feels like you weren't. It did feel strange. I mean, I guess knowing that this is the first in a series makes it make a little bit more sense that like because they still have so much farther to go.
yeah.
But it is funny they're all of a sudden like, but maybe it's in that same way where like Sophie just accepts things and doesn't even comment on them. Like
Yes.
at what point it went like half second when she's like, "Oh, I'm in love with Hal," and just accepted it and moved on. Just like she's like, "Oh, I'm young again," and just like it's literally part of a sentence. You've been trying to break this curse for the whole book and we just don't even acknowledge it. But she's young again. Also in the movie, like in the book, obviously her hair turns back to like ginger or whatever. And then in the movie, doesn't it stay like white even though the rest of her is young?
Yes, it's white because her hair's like gray as an old lady and then it turns white like the rest of the time. She looks really cute in the movie with white hair. But yeah,
Adorable. Yeah.
he's like, "What color is your hair again?" And she's like, oh, I describe it as like a murky brown red. And he's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, no."
He's like
Uh,
ginger after he had
yeah.
previously been making a bunch of comments about ginger hair, which is
Yeah.
a little good. Yeah.
And her sisters and Fanny and everyone who's there, like, oh, Sophie, blah, blah, blah. And they're just completely like, oh, lover bird's eyes, like, for each
Yep.
other. Until someone's like, I think Michael's like, Calcifer's back. And then they're like, what? And Calcifer's in the fireplace. He's like, hey, like, it's not that bad as long as I can leave. So I'm going to hang out here for a
Also,
while.
it's raining outside, so
Yeah.
like
Yeah. And then yeah, literally, they're like, "What are we gonna do now?" And Hal's like, "Well, I guess we're gonna live happily ever after." And the book ends,
yep.
like
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
it. That's Hal's Moving Castle.
Da da da.
I didn't realize how like not convoluted, that's not the right word, but like intricate this plot was until we were trying to go through
I
it. Like there are
know.
so many moving pieces. Like,
Yes.
oh my
But like
goodness.
you don't even realize it, and they fit together so well. I feel like
Yeah,
I almost feel like we did a disservice to
I know. I
describing
also
this
do.
book because
God, please read
it's
this
like
book. I promise it makes
yes,
more sense than we did. But
yes, and
so many moving pieces.
it works like you don't feel like that
Yeah,
reading it, you know?
yeah,
It just
true.
flows, but in a good way. I don't
Completely agree. Well, I guess what's favorite and least favorite parts of this book?
know. Oh, geez. You go first.
Okay. Favorite part. Uh I don't know. I really enjoyed the dynamic between Sophie and Howl. How for most of the book where he's just like, "Oh, she's going to be the death of me." And she's like just like doesn't even have time for him. She's like, "Ugh, tantruming child," just moves on with her life and he's like, "Oh, Sophie's ruining my life." And I just like adored that dynamic. It was so entertaining. Least favorite part? I don't know. I mean, all of the book is so good. I think the literally the only thing I had any sort of problem with was like the very end with that whole we're gonna live happily ever after now. And I was like, also like, not that you can't like stare all like starry-eyed at each other, but that feels like a jump from starry-eyed, I'm so happy you're alive, to just openly acknowledging that you're in love. Like
Yeah,
Sophie, I can kind of see for Sophie's personality. For Howl, it seems strange that he wouldn't have said anything, as he is extraordinarily dramatic. I'm like, why would you have not indicated that you're in love with her? And then you go and you're like trying to like look for signs, like, has he been showing signs he's in love with her? And I'm like, not really.
absolutely not. No.
No. So odd.
Actually, this isn't favorite or least favorite part, but that I kind of mentioned it earlier. I literally thought that part of the Witch of the Waste curse or something was going to be something like he had to find his true love, and that's why he kept trying to make these women fall in love with him. And then once they did,
Yeah.
and
I
he was
also
like,
kept thinking
oh,
that.
the curse didn't break. I don't like whatever next, whatever next. And then it was going to be in front of him the whole time. It was Sophie, but
That's what I
nope,
thought.
nothing to do, nothing to do with that. Which
Uh-huh.
I didn't hate that it had nothing to do with that. It felt a little like just left there hanging, like the fact that he was like, oh, women, women, women. And he's like, ah, I guess we'll live happily ever after, Sophie. But it
You're
like it
like,
wasn't horrible. It wasn't a part that I was like, I don't believe this. This is what's going on. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't have a specific like least favorite part either. I feel like there's probably a part that I felt was a little bit slower than others, but I can't really pinpoint that either because it's so chaotic. I feel like it was somewhere between going to visit Wales and like the Witch of the Waste appearing and all the battles starting. Like there was somewhere in there that it was just kind of like
Yeah.
there's nothing really going on, like things are happening, but it doesn't feel,
Yeah.
I don't
It
know.
was like a bunch of
Um,
things all happened like right after the other that like weren't super important but weren't totally unimportant, but they all happened like bam 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 bam. At least for me, like that's a big chunk of the book where I'm like if you said like, oh, and then this happened, I'd be like, oh right.
yeah, but
But
I
I don't
don't quite
remember.
remember what happened there.
Yeah.
And then my favorite part, I loved the whole book, but so if I have to pick a favorite part, it's just going to be the fact that it's not a part, it's a fact that Sophie accepts everything with like no,
So
okay,
good.
oh, I guess I'm old now. Oh, yes, I am a witch. Okay,
I
we're
like
gonna live
that.
happily ever after. Like what? Like
I
I
need
just
to
it
like,
cracked me up every time that she was just like, oh, I guess,
yeah.
and also, yeah, maybe we should live our lives that way. Like something happens and you're
Yeah,
just like, oh, okay, I guess this is
exactly.
how it is.
I was about to say like, I mean, we'll come back to favorite least favorite characters, but I'm just gonna skip over that for a second and go to lessons learned from this book. I think I'm learning. I'm learning from Sophie. Like, you know what? There's so much peace in just accepting that things are the way they are, just moving on. But at the same time, she's still like grumpy, grouchy, her personality. She's not like, oh, I love that I'm an old woman now. She's just like, well,
Yeah.
this is the way it is. Curse these old bones. I'm like,
Yes.
so there's like a balance there. Like, you don't have to be happy about it, but just like accept it. Move on with it. Don't harp on it. Like, oh God. There's so much, yeah. I learned that for sure.
I'm
What did I learn
thinking
from Hal? Nothing from you, Hal. I learned nothing from you.
that vanity is fine and natural being natural is I don't understand it. Like literally one of his last lines of the book too. He's like, because she said, I forget what
Oh,
happens, but
she's
he's like,
like, I like your basically your face better without all
oh
of the magic
yeah,
you used on it. And he's
yeah,
like,
and he's like, that's ridiculous. Like, who would want to be normal looking?
yeah, like literally, like Hal's like, I don't learn lessons. I don't learn lessons. Oh my
Uh,
God. Okay,
she
back
won't
to
ever be bored.
no, never, never. I've had so many people tell me that. I'm like, Sophie, I'm so sorry. All right. Favorite, least favorite characters. I can definitely say, actually, no, I'm gonna surprise myself. I think favorite Calcifer, least favorite, but also a tie for favorite Howl. but also Sophie's equally a favorite. I've never had this problem.
I was trying to think of my favorite and I was like, gosh dang it. I was like, I love Sophie. And then I was like, weirdly, even though she's such a small part, I love Letty
Yep.
because she's like, she, I don't know, expected to be the like youngest sister that's just not really up to anything, but she's like, oh yeah, I figured out Sophie was cursed, and oh yeah, I knew that was Howl and that he was trying to woo me, and I didn't fall for it, and so I sent the dog to
Yeah.
protect you, and like she's boss ass.
Yeah, she
Um,
is. That's kind of how I felt about Martha. Like Martha made more of an
um,
impact on me. Like I was like, I didn't know you guys were paying any attention to Sophie. And she's like, no, like
yeah,
we really talk about you a lot. We're worried about you.
but I also love Michael. I love the fact that Sophie drives him nuts, but he's just like, oh, fine, Sophie, like, oh, fine,
Such
Sophie.
a
She's
sweetheart.
like. She's like, ah, Michael, go do this. He's like, oh, you're not my mom, but fine.
But
Like,
fine. And also he and Martha are like an item.
oh
They're
yeah, he's
these
like, I
cute
love her
little
so
babies.
much. Sophie's like, how old are you? He's like 15, but we will wait to get married. We promised each other to each other.
It's so
Like,
sweet. So pure.
Hal is like, I like Hal. He's not my least favorite character, but he's not my favorite. He's not in my favorites, I would say. But I do love
Yeah.
how chaotic, like, I love how it plays in the book that he's super chaotic. And by
Yeah.
that I mean this how it guides the story along.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally agree. I don't think I really have a least favorite. Howl is just so absurd. Like if I had I maybe like if I
I'm
had to
gonna
just put
go.
someone there,
If I have to put someone, I'm gonna go with the dog man because
that's
he
fair.
like
He's
even
confusing. His whole presence is very
yeah,
confusing to me.
even though he's really the combination of two people and a dog, um, I didn't like get strong I like you vibes from him either. So I'm just gonna go with him as the least favorite.
I actually think I'm gonna totally second you on that. I changed my answer. Least favorite is Dogman, and for me, favorite is Sophie, but like runner up, like right behind and tied for runner up is Calcifer and Hell for me.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
All right. Favorite quotes?
Okay, so I meant to write it down, but I didn't. But I have like a general idea of it. So it's not actually a quote. But
But you know that line where they said that thing about that
yeah,
thing?
exactly.
Yeah.
Early on, right after, oh, I think it's right when she meets Calcifer. Sophie says something about like thinking she's going mad, but then again, most old women are mad, so it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite quote, but I didn't write it down. And I
I
don't any longer have the book with me.
This is me once again being like, Goodreads, hello. I totally forgot to even think about a favorite quote, but there are so many amazing lines. I will say there were so many lines where I like guffawed like out loud. And a lot of them were like at Howl being just totally like absurd. So here's just an example of one of the many lines that are basically exactly like this. He just changes up the wording a little bit. He's talking to Sophie and he's saying, yes, you are nosy. You're a dreadfully nosy, horribly bossy, appallingly clean old woman. Control yourself. You're victimizing us all. And like all she's doing is like cooking and cleaning for them.
I love it.
Control yourself. You're victimizing us all. You're so nosy and bossy.
I just feel like there's no good way to describe Howl because the last or no, I guess not the last, but the first of all three podcasts I've done with you um had that king who was like very chaotic and that's why I liked him
Oh, right,
because he
right,
was just
right.
like kind of
Right.
crazy.
It was the
And
no
so
shirt, no shoes, no war guy.
yeah.
That one.
Yeah. So like to again describe how is chaotic, it doesn't do it justice. Like he's chaotic, but he's clever, but he like just the stuff that he says like he doesn't care, but then he cares about weird things and like
Yeah.
I don't like there's no way to
And there's no one to
describe
compare him
him.
to.
Yes, there's
He
no
is
way
the
to
most
describe him well.
unique character.
But like if you've seen the movie, um does not do him justice at all. Read the book, you'll love him
Mhm.
so much more. In the movie,
Yeah.
he's a lot more suave, I feel like. He's like, "Ah,
Yeah.
yes." And he's a lot more self-deprecating in the movie, where
Interesting.
because he's trying to kind of stop the war on his own.
Right.
And
Yeah,
Calcifer's
he's
like,
not
"You're gonna kill
self-deprecating in the
yourself." No.
book.
And in the book, he's like, "Oh, my hair is pink. The world is ending." But then he's
Stop
like,
victimizing me by cleaning my room.
"Yeah,
Like,
yeah." It's like, but he's not
grown
just
ass
like
man.
he's not a whiny, annoying character either. So it's so hard
No,
to describe. He's just like
he's
the
impossible.
perfect, the perfect juxtaposition to Sophie's grumpy old lady. Like
It's so true.
the combination of characters, brilliant. This whole story is just brilliant the way it was written.
It's true. And
Of like,
if you dive into the memes that have been created about this, just know if you come across a meme that's about movie Howl, well, it's something thirsting for Howl. I'm shocked. The internet is like whew, really into Howl from the movie. But most of them are like movie Howl because you're like, nope, doesn't apply to book Howl like at all. I think I found like one or two memes after like searching for like an hour that are about book Howl. But book Howl is hilarious. And I guess movie Howl is much more like thirst trap worthy. I don't know. The internet is
I
thirsty for
could
him. It's
I can
weird.
see it. Like I can see it. I'm not into it, but he's very like sacrifice himself for the good of the world
Yeah.
in movie. It went very I was because I watched it with Phil 2 nights ago when we watched it, and he was like, "Tell me everything that's not in the book." And so I was like, "This didn't happen. This didn't happen." And it got like halfway through the movie, and it just went whew, way away from the book.
Yeah.
Um, but I was like,
Everyone kept calling him a hot wizard in these memes. They were like, "Oh my God, a hot wizard, say less." And I was like, I definitely don't remember the movie that well.
I mean, he's got like blonde shoulder length hair and earrings and like this twinkle in his eye in the movie. But he is a cartoon too, so
Yeah.
I
I
find it a little bit
cannot.
harder. Although I can't say that fully because we were watching Attack on Titan the other day, and I told Phil, the one of the characters, I was like, yeah. Phil stopped making has not stopped making fun of me since then. I was like, oh, I
Oh,
could
that's so
see
funny.
that.
I could see it.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a weird thing about like I maybe it's like Studio Ghibli like characters. I'm even if there's like a character like I admire, I've never been like, oh my God, I have such a crush. And I've had crush on cartoon characters. Like, let's get that clear. I have no problem having a crush on a cartoon character. But like, it's never happened with a Studio Ghibli movie. I don't know. It definitely doesn't happen with Howl, but if you this is for you, Gino, and also for all of you listeners. If you really want some like truly deranged entertainment, like you just go Google Howl's Moving Castle memes, and 99% are gonna be just deranged memes about how hot Howl is and how
I
Howl's
believe
gonna
it.
steal your girl. Give me more hot wizard Howl. And I'm like, are we looking at the same cartoon dude? Like, I'm just confused. He's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm confused. So I will be posting some of those. I'm aware that they're not as accurate to the book, but I'll be posting accurate and inaccurate memes for your enjoyment soon. You're welcome.
Although I know that you and I have I'd say like probably 70% similar taste in men.
Yeah,
So we could both get on the train of like, I don't get the Howl thing,
I
but
don't get the Hal thing. Yeah,
anyways, moving
that's so
on.
good. Yeah, moving on. Pinkies up. How many pinkies up would you rate this book?
Okay, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I have to write myself an actual scale of like because sometimes I feel like I would be like, "Oh yeah, like 3.5." And then later I'm like, "No, that one if this one's a 4.2, then that one was like a
Oh, no,
2.8,
you
you know,
can't do
like what I
that.
have
If
to
you
it's like
compare, then you're like, the whole scale is broken. The system is wrong. You can't compare them.
so it's like I have to have like a okay, 3 is like good, but whatever. 4 is like I'd read again or whatever. Anyways,
Hmm.
I didn't come up with that scale yet, so I'm gonna throw out a number, but not throw out a number.
Yeah, that's what we're here
So
for.
I'm actually gonna go with um 4.7.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
good. For
Yeah.
me, 3 is I didn't not enjoy it, but I probably won't read it again. For me, 4 is I might read it again. I enjoyed it. For me, 5 is I'll definitely read it again, maybe tomorrow. And for me, for the first time in a very, very long time, I feel like I'm giving Howl's Moving Castle 5 pinkies up. I could read this again
Woo!
tomorrow. Woohoo!
Go
I really
Diana.
like I really led up to that as if there was gonna be like an applause in this room. Like it's truly been a while since I feel like I had like a strong 5 pinkies up contender, and this one really was for me.
No, I
Um,
get that. I feel like my scale's sort of similar, and I was like, I'm not quite sure if I'd read it again, but I would definitely consider it. Like, it was really good.
yeah,
Really good. I was super
yeah.
excited to talk to you about it.
I was too. I was like, this is great. I don't have to be like,
Yeah.
I see why you like it, but I hate it, which is like a lot of classics with Kendall. I'm like, listen, we all know you're smarter than me, and that's why you enjoyed this.
No. And like it was so good, but there's not exactly I mean, we used so many words to describe why it was good, but we also did not use any of the words properly to describe why it was good.
No, I mean, honestly, probably the only person who could accurately describe why this book is good is the woman who wrote it. Like,
Yes.
there's just, I feel like I read so many words, but it wasn't that long, but every word was like the right one.
Yes.
And we've somehow, in almost 2 hours of recording, not said a single correct word. So, I don't know. She did it. She made it look easy.
I don't know. But I would definitely look into her other books. That's how much I like this. I was like, oh,
Yes,
I have to
I'm
see
going to
what
be
else is
opening
there.
my Thrift Books app, stingy as I am. Well, is there anything else you want to say about this book or just in general to the pod
Um,
listeners?
no, I said a lot of things, so I'll save anything else I have to say for next time.
I said a lot of things. I'm sure I still have a lot more things to say. I'm sure my husband
I
is
mean, we
like
could be here for
groaning behind
days
me.
if I had.
I literally hear Hobby go, he said something. I'm sure it wasn't appropriate for the air,
We're
but
actually going to start doing live podcasts where we just sit on live recording for 24 hours straight, talking about everything.
I feel like we'd have an audience for that. I don't know. You guys let me know. They're like, no, you absolutely delusional woman.
Like, definitely not.
All right. Well, if you guys enjoyed this podcast, enjoyed this episode, I am so glad to hear it. You guys should leave us a review and share the pod with your friends.
Five
That's the
stars only. I
five
believe
stars
that's our new
only.
policy.
The new policies, we only accept 5-star reviews. Yeah. Sorry. And I personally will only acknowledge those that also compliment my hair. So if you're not watching this on YouTube, go check it out on YouTube. I kind of feel like I'm rocking a Hal type look today, and I feel like you're kind of Sophie vibes today. Like I'm wearing a billowing shirt, and I have my hair is it's clipped up in the back, but I've got these sort of like long wispy bangs that make it look like my hair is about chin length. So
Okay, but I thought I was gonna have to talk about this way earlier, and then I didn't end up. But I got bored at work today. Not at work in general, but I had to, one of the things I had to do, I had to just sit there for a while. And I started braiding my hair in these tiny braids.
I noticed
So
at first I was like, did she crimp her hair?
no,
And
I
I was like,
have
they're
like
braids.
I have my head in tiny braids because I was bored and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna braid my hair. And I was like, I should take it out before we record. And I was like, no, I'm gonna leave it in and make it a
No,
conversation piece. But I
it's
didn't even
good.
get there.
No, but you
So
did. You slid it in right under the wire. So
whoosh,
5-star
all right.
reviews only, especially if you're complimenting either of our hair. Happily, we'll take that. Um, And if you don't follow us on social media, do it. We're That Pretentious Book Club. We are on the Instagram, we're on the TikTok. And if you guys want to submit a suggestion for a book for us to read, as Anna did for us, thank you again, lovely Anna. Then you guys can do that by messaging us on social media, or you can email us at contact@storysirenstudio.com. And don't forget, you guys can go check out the new merch that we've got. It supports the pod, which is awesome. And also, you'll look cooler than all of your friends. Well, maybe not, but we'll think that you're cooler than all of your friends.
You'll definitely be cooler.
You'll
Don't listen to her.
definitely,
You'll
yeah,
definitely be cooler.
you'll definitely be cooler. And I think that you get free shipping if you get $50 or more of items. So that's kind of cool if you're out there looking for some like bookish merch too as we approach the holidays. So go check it out. Or you can at least just learn more about the pod if you want to. We want to hear your thoughts about this book, about this movie. Are you in love with Howl? Which one? Please be the one from the book. Actually, not. I don't know what's worse. I mean, better. I don't know. I have a lot of feel. How do you guys feel about Howl as a potential
Please
love
let us know.
interest?
I need to know. I need to know. I
I
need to hear the
also do.
people's response.
Yeah, badly. Okay, well, we will see you at some point in the near future. Thank you guys for sticking it out until the end of this, and until we see you again through your ears, keep your teacups full.
Oh no, your pinkies, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Your
pinkies.
pinkies up.
High. Your pinkies
Hi.
high. And your book club pretentious
Pretentious.
someday.
I